The engine is still
For launch. GC, go. Guidance, go. Fido, go. Prop, go. GNC, go. Max, go. Eagle, go. Ecom,
go. Pending final steps. The cabin link check.
2, 1.
Is there anyone here that would like to communicate with us? Can you give us a sign?
Welcome to the Rift Nation Network, the RNN, putting a slide in your glide and a dip in your hip. Welcome to the mothership, the home of the travelers of the universe. With shows throughout the week, you can find us at Instagram, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, and more. Everything you could want, everything you can need right here, right now. From the paranormal to the supernatural. From comedy to the spiritual. And now, your featured show. Shall we begin?
It's showtime, folks!
Podcast may contain material that some listeners may find sensitive, offensive, or disturbing. We strive to create respectful and informative content, but topics discussed may include mature themes such as violence, explicit language, or controversial subjects, triggering content including discussions related to mental health, trauma, or other sensitive issues, explicit language. Occasionally, our guests or hosts may use strong language. While we aim to handle these topics with care and empathy, we encourage listeners to exercise discretion. If you find any content distressing, consider skipping or seeking support. Remember that this podcast is not a substitute for professional advice. If you need assistance, please consult a qualified expert.
Hi guys, welcome again to another episode of Horror History and Haunting Podcast. Tonight we're visiting a place that really does bring all three of those things together. Hidden away in Mechanicsville, Virginia is a property known as the Cabin on 360. The land surrounding it has witnessed the violence of bloodshed over the Civil War. The cabin itself carries stories from a much more recent and darker period of its history, and another structure on the property is connected to a tragic murder of a 12-year-old girl. And then there's the hauntings on top of all that. I've actually had the opportunity to investigate the Cabin on 360 myself. So tonight's episode is a little different for me. We're talking about a place I've walked through after dark, investigated, and experienced firsthand. And joining me tonight is the man who knows the property better than almost anyone, the owner of the cabin on 360, Dennis Estlock. We're going to talk about the history of the property, the story surrounding it, the paranormal activity, Dennis's own experiences, and what's really like to own a location where people deliberately come looking for things that go bump in the night. Dennis, welcome to Horror History and Hunting Podcast. I'm really glad that you're here tonight.
Thank you, darling. I appreciate it. It's nice to be here, and I'm glad. Look, it actually worked. I'm on camera.
Right,
I
right.
look tiny, but that's okay.
A tiny but mighty man.
Yes, we had this discussion before we even went live, and like, I don't know what's wrong. It's an iPhone, and it doesn't do what it's supposed to do.
Well, and it doesn't help. We're both old. So technology is not our friend.
Right off the get-go, we're going to start with that. Well, that's all right, because watching your video intro, it's talking horror, ghosts, hauntings, cryptids,
Oh yeah.
and just plain weird. I got all of those covered. I'm the and just plain weird part.
Well, that's why I call everybody, like the people that watch my show, the creepy little weirdos, because we're all a little bit of a creepy little weirdo to like this stuff. So yeah. So you fit right in. Don't you worry.
I mean, we sit in the dark, we talk to the walls and hope they talk back. That's kind of weird.
Right? We basically talk to ourselves and hope in the darkness somebody speaks back, which is most of the time that's what people want to avoid. And I still have you sparkling. You look fabulous, by the way. Let me calm that down right now.
Get my good set. Wait, get my good set. Oh, shit. I don't have one. Never mind.
Mine depends on my mood, I think. So, Dennis, if nobody knows what the cabin at 36 or on at 4, all of that, the cabin on 360 is, how would you explain it to them?
I think when we first put together the Facebook page, that was probably the most accurate description I could give it. It's an unassuming little location on the side of a highway that just makes you scratch your head and go, what the hell did I just encounter? It is a true paranormal experience. So the road out front, 360, we can date it all the way back into the 1700s. Revolutionary War marched right by us.
Oh, wow.
Then we have the natives. We have them dating, well, back into the 1630s when the European settlers came up this way. The natives were already here. Revolutionary War. Then we have Civil War. Right where I'm sitting was battlefield.
Mm-hmm.
And like you mentioned, we have the tragic unaliving of Melissa, the little 12-year-old girl next door. We have a lady that had a business right here in the cabin that attempted to take her own life and recounted her tale of a near-death experience right where I'm sitting. So we have so many different layers that as many times as I've investigated, I don't think I've even peeled a quarter of the layers back on this location.
Right. Most definitely. I would agree with that 110%. Now, how did you first become involved with the cabin?
So my buddy, which I'm sure you're aware of, Ryan Jones, his grandfather started Jones Realty and Construction. And in July of 1978, his grandfather bought this parcel of land, 7.2 acres, and it was just to build this log cabin to be a model home for log cabin sales. So it's never been a private residence. For its first year or two in existence, it had sales reps lived in it, and that was about it. And then it became one business after another, a gift shop, a doll shop, et cetera, et cetera. And then Ryan joined my team. So I founded Commonwealth Researchers of the Paranormal, I want to say in 2012 maybe. Then Ryan came on board with me, I want to say in 2014, 2015. Spent about a year talking to me about these two buildings, saying we ought to go check them out. My first thought was, what the hell are we going to find there?
Right.
They're two fairly new buildings on the side of a highway. Big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, well, I know when I was a kid, Dad came home one day and told us that there had been a murder in the brick rancher next door, but we had no information. We didn't know who our victim was. We didn't know who the perpetrator was. We didn't know gender, age, nothing about anything other than there had been a murder. So about a year after him going, we ought to go check it out. We can use it for a training ground. Finally, I came out. We're walking through the cabin. I'm like, there's some definite energies here.
Mm-hmm.
We hear some footsteps. I'm like, yeah, this wouldn't be too bad. Then we walk next door, the little brick rancher. And I'm not one to, I don't wear my badges, so to speak, on my chest saying I'm this, I'm that, I'm this, I'm that.
Right.
But I am a medium and a sensitive, and that's been proven. Uh, but I walked in that door and I made it 3 feet in, and I stopped dead in my tracks. And the first words out of my mouth to Ryan were, "Bro, there's something in this house that's not human and never has been. This place is effed up."
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Really?" Yeah, there's something wrong here.
Yeah.
Um,
And just put a little marker in it because I want to go back to that later on in the discussion
okay.
because because when we came and did the investigation there, it was me, my boyfriend, Jenny Davis, I think Taham was there, a couple other people,
Mhm.
but we kind of broke out and we did our own things. And I know you spent a lot of time there and then you left. And we didn't get to really the time to reconnect afterwards to kind of compare notes. And I definitely want to do that in this episode a little bit. Chaos, animals.
Mouse fart.
Well, yeah, it's the goats outside on the porch fighting, and it agitates the walrus.
Ah.
And only in the country, man. Only in the country.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so we'll definitely. I want to touch base on that later on. So I don't want you to go in too much detail because I want to compare. Because I know some of the history and more since I've been gone, but I don't know exact details about hauntings specifically. So I
Okay.
kind of want to compare a little bit before, you know, you tell me too much. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. So
Now,
after, as Ryan and I were walking through the property, we walked down into the basement and we heard an audible scream that it was so loud that it wasn't one of those, "Oh, did you hear that?" It was, "What the hell was that?"
mm-hmm,
And it echoed through the house. So we're both thinking, okay, maybe there's somebody outside. We went out and ran around the house, looked up and down the road, nothing. And then it dawned on us, this echoed in the house, man. That was with us. That was from within.
mm-hmm.
So that made the decision right there that we need to start investigating, and I need to start getting into the history, and I need to learn who, what, when, how, all of those things.
The
So I don't know if you
details.
want me to get into them yet or not.
Well, we can take it kind of in tandem because I do want to talk about the Civil War history and the different periods.
Sure.
I should have videoed it but I felt a little strange because I never really tried to do it. But the only thing I knew about the property when I come on was that there was a murder.
Hmm.
I didn't know any, and I knew it was a young girl, and that was it.
Okay.
I didn't know any, and I knew that there was some Civil War stuff, but no details about battles or anything like that. And I wish I would have recorded it because the first off, like when you, for me, when you go in the cabin, I was instantly pulled because the reason I'm going to start with the cabin because a cabin is the closest in history that the property is.
Sure.
I'm gonna kind of work backwards in history is my thought process. And with the cabin, I immediately got pulled to the back room and the room upstairs. And we did try an MVP session upstairs. But the interesting thing that happened while we were investigating is downstairs in the back room, Jenny Davis had brought what they call It's basically a motion it's called a dead bell, but
Uh-huh.
basically the motion activated bell, and it kept going off like crazy in the hallway to the point like I'm like, okay, maybe it's a light thing because it was just ding, 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 ding. Okay, so finally, like we set that aside, and I'm like, well, Jenny, didn't you say you have like a trip rope? I'm like, well, if it's going off that, let's try the trip rope. The strange thing that happened with the trip rope, it wouldn't work as long as it was in that hallway. As soon as it was taken out of the building and she turned it on, it would work fine. She would bring it into the main room where you're at, worked fine. Put it in the hallway, turned it on, would not work. It was lighting up colors that it shouldn't be lighting up. It was the weirdest thing. But in the upper room, in the back,
The
I
pink
got,
pearl.
yeah, what they call the pink pearl, which later on I found out why it was called that because I was making jokes up there and like, because I had this feeling about some very intimate things
Oh,
going on up there.
the ultimate. Na, 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 na.
But yeah, I didn't realize the extent because later on, I think I was talking to Ryan, or maybe it was you at some point. I found out that it was we're not going to say definite, but suspected.
Oh no, it was rated as one.
Oh, it was rated. See, I didn't know
Yeah,
that. I
yeah.
So I kind of got triggered a little bit on that, but I was like, we were making jokes and stuff up there, and that dead bell just kept going off. Is that a common occurrence in the cabin itself?
Um, it is common for virtually everything to get triggered in this building. Um, a common occurrence is to have the tripwires not work properly. Um, have rim pods that it seems like they just grab the antenna and won't let go.
Mm-hmm.
Or equipment just flat out dies.
Mm-hmm.
So common is anything that can act jacked up
It
does,
will in
and
that back room.
that's common.
For sure. So I can attest to that because I saw that in action. But before we got started on the actual investigation, I tried my hand on walking the property and just talking out loud basically on what I sensed on. And the thing that kind of broke my heart the most is when I was walking around, because you would think you would be drawn to like the front of the house and into the house. I was not. After we got done with the cabin, because we kind of walked around up there, and I kind of sensed like the, I guess you would call it the room that hangs over that you can look at everybody
Yeah, the
down the
law.
left. Yeah, the loft. We actually slept up there for a couple hours in the morning. But what was funny is I always like had this feeling with that loft of somebody kind of going like, "Hey, what you doing down there? What's going on?"
Oh yeah.
But is that something that happens quite often? There is that feeling of just somebody just over the railing, kind of.
Very frequently. And I'll tell you my story about that railing. So I'm going to turn the camera so you can actually see what we're talking about. We're referring to this space up here. So
Mm-hmm.
this is fireplace, all brick. And then you have this area that you can just look over. And it looks into the main room here.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm kind of proud of this. This will be our 10th year working with Toys for Tots.
Congratulations!
Well, thank
Woo!
you.
That's a big accomplishment.
1 year before that, we did our first one we did with an organization called Henrico Christmas Mother. At the end of the night, it was 1:30, quarter till 2 when everybody had left. I've got about a 40-minute drive home. So I decided I'm not going to drive home. I'll just throw my sleeping bag up in the loft, throw a pillow against the railing, and I'll just crash here. Now, I carry a sidearm. I've got my concealed permit, former security, military, the whole nine. So I carry a firearm. Weird times we live in. But I took my
Right?
weapon off, I laid it by my shoulder, I plugged my phone in and had music to go to sleep to, had a speaker plugged in downstairs. slid into the sleeping bag, and I was sleeping peacefully till the music stopped. Now, I'm going to give you a good pointer. And viewers, please take note of this. If you're going to sleep in a haunted location in a sleeping bag, don't zip that sumbitch up. You can't get out fast enough.
You
I
turn into a squirmy worm is what happens, like a panic-ridden.
pretty much I almost turned my sleeping bag into a doo-doo bag. I woke up when the music stopped, and as I'm kind of wiping the cobwebs and clearing my eyes, standing at my feet was an old man with his arms folded across his chest, just looking at me.
Mm-hmm.
Scared the hell out of me. But as I'm staring at him, eyes locked, I'm reaching for my weapon. He was so solid, I thought he was real. I thought he had, broken into the building.
Mm-hmm.
I turned my head away real quick, spot my weapon, shook out of the holster. Flashlight comes on the weapon. Nobody's there. Gone. Now, I have suspicions on who it is. But yeah, that's a common occurrence to feel either a presence or feel like you're being watched from the loft, or have some asshole stand over you while you're sleeping.
Well, I didn't have that happen, but I always felt like, somebody, that feeling of just like,
Yeah.
what are you doing here type of like, energy, but nothing like dangerous, I would say. Just kind of like I'm tired of this horse shit type of personality.
Yeah. And like I said, I have my suspicions on who it is. So during the Civil War, we know that on this land was the Curry family home, Curry. Mr. and Mrs., and they're referenced once in a journal entry from the Union Command about a mile or so away in the Via House. But that's the only information I can find on them is their description. Well, it's a lieutenant colonel. And it's not a very descriptive description. It's not like, Mr. Curry with the brown
6
hair
foot.
parted on the left and he's 5. No, it refers to him as a, quote, flabby, mostly retired looking gentleman.
Which is 90% of like America right now, I feel like.
Right. And then the descriptor for Mrs. Curry was a tawdrily dressed woman with a spiteful, biting tongue. So that
Yes,
didn't really tell me much.
a woman I
Howdy,
can
Brad.
aspire to. Oh, do we have chat?
We do.
Oh, we do. Deborah's here. Hey,
Hi, Deborah Verona.
Brody
But
Ghost Chase is in the house. Welcome,
yeah, so that was my introduction to what I assume to be Mr.
Mr.
Curry.
Curry.
And he seems to be a guardian spirit here in the building. Now, the young lady that I mentioned that attempted her life here in this room, part of her story was describing that after she had attempted, she used a knife and made marks on her wrists. I'm trying to be careful so we don't get you censored. She said that she was sitting here in her desk chair, hung her arms over the chair, and just let the liquid contents flow. And then she says, I remember standing over here by the fireplace, and an old man walked up beside me and an old woman beside him. And we looked at each other. I looked back at my body, looked back at the old man, and he just gave me a smile and said, it's not your time. You're not ready. You have to go back now.
Oh, wow.
But her best friend had called for a welfare check. And when they found her, she had a heart rate of 42.
Wow.
So literally right where I'm sitting was her near-death experience.
Wow.
And the description that she gave of the old man and old woman that walked up beside her, the old man matches the old man that was standing at my feet.
Yeah, I never actually saw him. I just had that feeling of like, it was almost like I don't know, like you're being supervised. Just somebody like standing there, just watching what you're doing. Like, don't break anything. Don't be disrespectful or I'm here, type of vibe you get from that dude. But yeah, that was my experience there at the cabin. And then like I walked out And I went to actually go towards the front door of the townhouse. And as I went towards the townhouse, I felt really pulled around to the back. And when I got to the back of the house, then I felt pulled in two different directions. One wanted me to go directly into the house, and then one wanted me to go back. Now, you, I think, were with me at that time, and I didn't know this, but I walked back, and you had cleared some land. And I felt like maybe it was a little bit, maybe further back than that, but right in that area, something of importance and something very sad was in that area. Um, and I had no idea, but that was, you explained to me, was unfortunately where they found the poor little girl's body,
Yes.
which you guys I wanted to touch on have done a wonderful tribute to her.
Well, thank you.
She has a very sweet disposition, and she loves rainbows and butterflies. And the fact that you guys had gave her a tribute, they did a beautiful tribute. That it's in this, it's a garden in the shape of a butterfly, and they put her plaque that they've had done for her um, in place, so people can visit with her and talk with her and remember her for her, not for what happened to her, which I think is phenomenal. So that's just my 2 cents on that.
Well,
But
the idea was, one, she needs to be remembered.
right,
And two, I wanted to change the energy of a place that held sadness, remorse, and just negative vibe. And I wanted to give it something a little more positive. So we put the memorial garden there for her, and we changed the entire energy of that area.
oh yeah, oh yeah, I could tell even when I was there before you guys, just the idea of it and the energy that you guys brought to that area. I think she loves you guys for it, which I know. I felt like she had a very bond. I can't remember. I'm bad with names. There, the lady that was with us during the investigation, one of the volunteers. I feel like she has a,
Martha?
maybe that's probably right. Um, I feel like she has a really strong connection with her, and just felt like she was um, very touched by what they did with the memorial garden. But not to get too sad, but the basics. Later on, we found out that she was murdered in the house. She was partially unclothed, and unfortunately, her body was placed in a cardboard box out in the middle of the woods and just left there. And it, like she was nothing, which is heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's definitely a tragic story. Somewhere between 7:20 when mom and dad left for work and 10 a.m. when he was seen carrying something into the woods. He had sexually assaulted her, um, murdered her with two 38 caliber rounds in her chest, and threw her body out the bedroom window, like just
Nothing.
like throwing the trash out. Carried her off 75 to 100 yards into the woods, and dropped her body into a refrigerator box, and then ran off through the woods.
And I think I even talked about feeling like being in a box or encased in something, but I can't remember because I was in the moment, and then like half of it I don't remember, but I remember that. And then we went into the house, and I was I walked into the rooms, and I know like I could spot his room, and then obviously it's very easy to tell which one's hers because it is decorated and it's respect, like there's things in it that people know that she would love.
Yeah.
Butterflies, toys, purple. She seemed to really like the color purple. um but where I started to get a negative, besides the negative energy from his room, I was very drawn to the basement. Now the basement gets interesting, guys, let me tell you, because you go down in the basement and you get bumped. Like, if you're sensitive, you get bombarded down there. Like, there is so much like trauma and pain and anger that is in the basement, and that's why we decided to do the for Tim Curry, who had well, T Dog, you know, T Dog, he had a stroke. He always did it. He called him a lockdown, and so I decided to do one in the basement. And this is where it kind of got interesting, because when yeah, whenever I was doing because we did an Estes method, but I wasn't blindfolded for the first part of it, for the first 15 minutes, because I didn't know how it was going to go, because I've never tried to do it. I was chained up. I still have the big chains over here. And I waited 15 minutes, and then they come and checked on me, and then they covered. Well, when they covered my eyes, and everybody left, and I was left in the basement alone, because I did a live during that period, so people can go back and watch it. You can see my physical reaction, because I went like, you can see me recoil, because if you've ever had somebody rush up behind you and just stand in your space, that's what it felt like. Like, it felt like there was a person right there casting a shadow over me that was not friendly. He was not a good guy, or whatever it was. It was not a good thing. And I felt like there was a lot of negative ceremonies, I guess is the best way to put it, down there. And there's a lot of unresolved energy in the basement. Does that
Yeah.
any of what I'm saying make sense?
I mean, as far as, negative ceremonies, I can't attest to that. Um, I I don't know what all gets done, and especially before we came onto the property. And the way it works for a booking, we I do the history, I do a walkthrough, I leave the property. Much like I did with you guys that night, I left the property.
Hmm.
I those of us that have done investigations before, you travel hours and hours, and you pay hundreds of dollars, if not thousands of dollars, and then you have employees off in the office space cackling, and it sounds like a coven of witches over there while you're trying to do an EVP
Right.
session. I wanted it so there is no way that we are able to interfere in your investigation. You can't go, was that Dennis laughing? If Dennis is 30 miles away at home chilling in his recliner.
Right.
Which, my team has heard my voice in this building before when I'm not present. They've seen my doppelganger, apparently. Uh, they There were two of my team members, my volunteers, in the back room downstairs. I had gone into the bathroom. They wanted me to come back to the back room with them. And they said they watched me walk out of the bathroom, walk across to the kitchen, and didn't respond to them, call my name. Then I walked out of the bathroom. And they didn't bother to call my name again, because they're all going,
Wait a minute.
what the hell did we just see?
Right.
So, and this is one of those locations where you never know just what's going to happen.
Mhm.
I've had numerous teams come through that, man, we had things happen here that we haven't had happen at any other location. Well, great. Tell your friends.
It's good for business. And
Yeah.
I did have like, and unfortunately, I should have turned the camera just a little bit more to show the table, because they have tables down there that you can use, but there's nothing around them. Like, before I do any type of thing like Estes method using the K2, I usually walk around the room trying to get a base read on everything. Nothing. Okay. Set it down, turned it on, and it just started going off. And you hear it in the live where I'm like, "Okay, guys, calm down. You guys are a little bit too eager for this. It's making me nervous." Because that was when the chains come out, that the K2 was going nuts. Like, "Hey, like, let's go."
It's playtime.
Exactly. And I was shaking, because it did make me nervous, but we got through
You
it.
want to play a game?
Do you want to play a game? Yeah, I kind of felt that way. But the strangest of it for me, when it came to experiences there, is Dennis and his crew will tell you there's 7 acres behind the cabin. They put glow sticks all through the path so you cannot get lost. I, in my arrogance, Sig and I were talking to Dennis. We're like, it's only 7 acres. How are you going to get lost in 7 acres? Like, especially because it's only like a half acre wide, and then you go for, it goes back. I'm like, you can't get lost in, whatever. I'm like, yeah, it's great that you put the glow sticks up, but we're not going to need them. It'll be fine.
How'd that work out for you?
Exactly. That was the thing that kind of, I don't know how to explain it. But Sig and I went back because I had some spent rounds that I wanted to use as a trigger object, and I brought some tobacco, and both were in my pocket. We never did get to the investigation part because we wandered around so much in that little piece of woods. We got so flipped around that we thought that we were headed in the opposite direction than what we were heading. We finally found the road, and then we're like, okay, and then we found the portal. So then we thought we knew where we were going, and we come back in, and we were still lost. It took forever for us to find the cabin, and that's with the glow sticks. It's pretty lit up. Now, mind you, it was foggy, and it was like early morning, so maybe the grogginess had something to do with it. But I couldn't believe it because, like, we have 40 acres here of woods. And, like, I grew up in the woods. I go, to parks and, and never get lost. But in that 7 acres, it was like being in one of those video games, like the Labyrinth games, where you're trying to locate, and there's little little markers so you know your way, because there's like a teacup in one tree, and then you have the portal tree, and then you had the sun, no trespassing, bullet hole ridden sign. Like, it just reminded you of going through like one of those games, and you still ended up getting lost. And I can't explain it to this day. I'm like, how in the world did we get so turned around and confused in that?
And it's fairly common. Time loss is fairly common here. We were in the Brick Rancher. We thought we were only there an hour or two, and it turned out we were there 4 hours. We're like, holy crap, where'd the time go?
Right.
And I've had the same reports on the being in the cabin, being in the woods. Time just disappears.
Mm-hmm.
We joke and we call the 2 large cedar trees that the trail walks up between the portal.
Mm-hmm.
Not because it is a portal or that we believe it's a portal,
It
but
looks
just because
a portal.
yeah, I mean, it's the 2 largest cedar trees on the entire property. The game trail was natural game trail that went up between them. And we're like, dude, and at night, it looks creepy as hell.
Mm-hmm. And it was foggy that morning. And I know that didn't help with visibility. And we never did get to use the trigger objects or do an investigation because we were just so happy to find our way back to the cabin. We're just like, you know what? Wasn't meant to be. It's okay. We'll just go back to the cabin and take a nap. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, this place is truly an anomaly.
Right?
I started my search today. I now have a foundation name. So I'm going to start my foundation. The paperwork will be in process over the next week or so. But my entire purpose is save this battlefield. And I want to protect this battlefield from ever being some jackass's car wash or vape shop or softball field.
Right.
So, it's not just the paranormal here that's special. It's all of those soldiers that came through here. I mean, we've got 13th Virginia was wiped out from 500 soldiers down to less than 100, taken POW, and the remainder were all killed. We have 49th Virginia that had 12 soldiers left when they finally surrendered. We've got 15th Pennsylvania that was just decimated here. So all of those soldiers have a story. There are, you know, this is 7.2 acres, but it holds thousands of stories.
Right.
And that's our ultimate goal, is protect this land. It is hallowed ground. And I want it to remain that forever. So that's our goal.
I love that. I really do. Because, and it's also like that was part of it too when we did the initial walkthrough. Is I kept being pulled in that far left, like all the way past the property, across the field into that area for some reason. And then later on, you told me that was where, like, one of the bloodiest, where the swamps were like the
Well,
bloodiest.
yeah, well, the back end of our property is swamp, or was swamp. Now with, a new subdivision just a little ways away, they've changed all the topography and drainage and everything. But that's where 13th Virginia was massacred. 500 members went on an offensive attack, and nobody told them that there were 5,000 Union soldiers coming in to attack Bethesda Church itself, the Confederate headquarters, and go into Cold Harbor, 3 miles away from us. So they literally fishbowled 13th Virginia. And, from where you were pointing, that would be about the point where they were, was walking up modern day Walnut Grove Road, which then was just a horse and buggy trail, and just got bogged down in the mud in the swamp. And, 400 of them never got to go home.
Which
So,
is crazy if you think about it. Like, because I know some of the blah, 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 bodies were recovered, but with that many people fallen in a swamp, like, there's no way they recovered all of those men from that
I'm,
ground.
I'm sure they haven't. I'm sure I have burials back here. And I'm working now. I'm trying to get ground penetrating radar. I've already looked at LIDAR, and I've got numerous anomalies on the property that need to be investigated. We suspect there's native burials here. So we have all of those hundreds of years of tragedy right here on this land that I want to honor. Part of what I'm doing now, I have a couple of areas in the woods off the main trail that I'm clearing, and I want to put a Confederate encampment in, and I'm going to put a Union encampment in, and I'm going to build a native village in the very back portion of the land. And, I've got people that are highly knowledgeable in those aspects of history. I have a friend of mine that lives on the reservation that is going to come out and help me. I've spoken with Chief John from the Pamunkey tribe, and he's going to help me with making sure that the native village, or what I'm building, is acceptable and as close to accurate as possible. So it's taken on a life far bigger than my own. And, when we first started investigating it, it was, this will be cool, man. We got a neat place to investigate. We got great activity. And then we got into the history. And then we learned everything there was. And then it became, this needs protected. This is hallowed ground, and these soldiers need to be honored. So that's where we're at today.
Which is awesome. Now, has anyone ever seen any soldiers besides Mr. Curry just kind of
Oh, yeah.
wandering about?
Oh, yeah. I've had Confederate soldiers seen numerous occasions, both full-bodied apparition and shadow figure, but you can tell from the profile and you can distinguish the kepi. We've heard them marching on the gravel road. We have heard the residual musket fire, residual cannon fire. We heard what sounded like a drum and baton, or baton. Yay. Drum and fife corps going on. We've also had the native flute playing out here. So we know they're all here. Why they are all here is beyond us. But in time, maybe we'll peel that layer of the onion back and get those answers.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's what we all hope, that we can get some answers to, or names to faces. I guess the best way things that we see have, certain things. But I definitely feel um most everything is human based.
Yeah,
There is, when you're talking about the townhouse though, there
brick ranches.
is, yeah, there's a negative. I wouldn't say, I hate the word demon. I hate it
No, it's not a
because it's
demon. It's
extremely
an
rare.
elemental.
That's what I was going to say. I feel like it was something that's been here before the buildings were ever there.
Yes. And so here's my theory on it. Um, it is an elemental. The Powhatan uh, were known to summon forth an entity called a Pukwudgie. And as an elemental, a Pukwudgie, it's a shapeshifter. They're a little mischievous. But if we look back at lore, folklore, according to that, the Powhatan brought forth the Pukwudgie. At its inception, it was intended to bring good health among the tribe, bountiful harvest, bountiful hunts, beautiful weather, things like that to benefit the tribe. Then about the 1630s, like I said, the European settlers were starting to come into this area. Now they're taking the land from these tribes. And there were 4 or 5 tribes in this immediate area. So their land is now disappearing. Infighting became common amongst the tribes to take what land they could get away from the settlers, and they would take it from the others. Well, lore tells us that they were beginning to use the Pukwudgie negatively against the other tribes, and that angered the Pukwudgie, and that
Mhm.
turned the Pukwudgie against humanity. And parts of this are even documented by some of the settlers. Captain John Smith talked about the natives having a um, earthen, what do you call it? Like earthen goblin or something like that. Because he didn't know what that was, but he just knew that that's what they had talked about. So they were referenced as an earthen goblin, or what we now know as a Pukwudgie, or an elemental, a spirit of the earth's elements. I think that's what's next door. Given the descriptions that have been given to us a few times, given a pencil drawing that was given to us by one young lady, Transcend Paranormal, one of their investigators, captured this thing on a thermal image that looks just like the hand-drawn image that we have.
Oh wow. See, I didn't know
Um,
any of that. I just know that and it's ironic because I'm one of the very few people that I'm aware of that has zero Native American in their ancestry. I have African, believe it or not, but not Native American.
mhm,
So most of my ancestry is North European, Welsh, and Irish. So
mhm.
that may have been why whatever came up on me tightly. Whoa. Um, and
What the
just
hell is this?
exactly. It was just like, dude, you aren't supposed to be here. Like, this isn't a place for you to be.
One of these things ain't like the others.
Right? She's weird, but she's extra weird. This is interesting. Let's go invade her space. Um, but that was the one thing. And I've wondered if that had anything to do with being so discombobulated in the woods, because it's just I can't figure it out. Like, we've even sat and discussed it, Sig and I, because I'm like, we're both familiar with the woods, and we both were got all kinds of turnaround. He's like, I don't know where I'm not gonna say the words, but it's like where we're at. I could have sworn we were headed this direction. We kept going and kept going, and it's like eventually, you have no way but to go out. And we just wandered around in that area and couldn't find our way out for like forever. And then finally we were able to like find our way out and then find the portal to go back in. And then we're able to finally eventually, and we're just like, okay, we're done. We found the cabin. We're going back. We're done.
Yeah, I mean, and it partly because of things like that. I have 4-inch square reflective arrows that kind of point the way for you.
Exactly. There's air, like that was the part that blew my mind. There's arrows. You have all the glow sticks, and there were certain areas that were lit up. It's not like we were walking around like unfamiliar ground with in the darkness with just flashlights. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the part we like. I don't know how we got so turned around and like we saw the coffee or the teacup that was in the tree. I don't know how many times. It was a mess. I was like, yeah, we're supposed to be professionals and we're lost in a 7-acre plot of woods.
Hey, Dennis,
Right?
come get us.
Can you, well, that's what, and then I guess because we were taking so long, the girls had gotten in the car and drove up down the road. We saw the car, and that's eventually how we found the road. Is we saw this car go up and stop, and I started walking toward the car to see like what's going on. Like, who are you? What you know? And it kind of looked like because she had a white SUV, so I thought it was maybe a police officer or something, wondering why we're stumbling around in the dark in the woods. Um, but then they saw us coming. They didn't know if it was us, so they pulled off.
Screw them.
Yeah, they were like, I don't know if it's them or not. Like, we're let's go. And they came back to the cabin, and that's how we found our way out, though. So it's hard to tell how long we would have fumbled around back there.
It's yeah.
It was
This
weird,
property is one of those anomalies that just makes you scratch your head.
right?
And if you look back, let's go back 160-ish years, and we look back during the Civil War. What did the land look like then? And did it have that same discombobulative feeling to it?
Mm-hmm.
Because there were so many troop movements here, and so many, for lack of better terms, errors made in judgment on troop maneuvering. Um, you know, I mean, they even had one regiment that was literally sacrificed. They sent them to the east and told them that is going to be our primary strike. Let's go flank the enemy. And 3 other companies went west to actually flank, while that company sent east
Wow.
was the decoy.
Mm-hmm.
So they literally sacrificed a regiment to get the upper hand on the enemy at this property. It's insane what took place here.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the leading up to Cold Harbor. Now, for those that don't know, Cold Harbor on a per capita basis was the deadliest battle of the entire Civil War. It exceeded an 80% death rate. One of the maps that I have up in the corner here was a hand-drawn map by a Union commander, and the footnote on the bottom right corner of it is 10,000 men lay still in 20 minutes.
Wow. And you got to understand that that's insane because you think of the rifles and stuff, the fact that they would have to like reload their muskets, and that takes
Mhm.
like 7-8 minutes at a time to just do that, to be able to decimate that many people. That is close quarters, like, what do they call them?
Oh, it was hand to hand. It was a lot of bayonet.
Bayonet, that's the word I was looking for.
But a New York soldier, I want to say he was 119th New York, described their visit to Cold Harbor. And he said, as we cleared the tree line, you could see nothing but mounds and mounds of earthworks with one lone battle flag perched upon the top. Then it became a field of smoke, and we dropped like a curtain. The Confederates had the opportunity for 3 days to dig in, waiting on the Union to arrive. It has the nickname of Grant's Folly.
Mm-hmm.
After the war was over, Grant was interviewed and he was asked, what's your biggest regret of the war? And his response was underestimating the tenacity of the Confederates at Cold Harbor. you're talking a location that claimed the life of nearly 20,000 men. We were the, for lack of better terms, ignition point for that right here at Bethesda Church. We're 3 miles away from what became per capita the deadliest battle of the entire Civil War.
Mhm.
And most people don't even recognize the fact that this battlefield is here. And I'm not talking about just your listeners. I'm talking about people right here in Mechanicsville that live a mile away, have no clue what took place on this piece of land.
Mhm.
And that's my job. My job is to be
Educator.
an educator, but my job more so is to be just a protector of this land and make it known.
Mhm. Well, that's
Yeah.
part and like you showed me different things that you had planned for the woods in the back with the different encampments and stuff.
Mhm.
And not only is the property like it's easily accessible because it's right off the interstate, but it's pretty manageable for, if you're able to walk, you can access any part of the property, and you could even bring families to see the encampments and to remember Melissa
Mhm.
and hear the history. So it can be a place that you can bring families. I don't want people to suddenly think, oh, it's paranormal, so it's only for adults. Our history is for everybody. And the more opportunities we have to show our mistakes and show our history and the battles that we fought for various reasons, whether good or bad, it's not our business, but it is our history. And I think, it's good that you're going to have something available for kids to be involved too.
And my ultimate goal is along the trail at the encampments. I want to have historic markers. And I want to say, this was the battle site that 2,264 men were killed, captured, wounded, or missing in action. These are some of them. So I'm trying to amass names. I'm trying to amass rosters. I'm trying to figure out which regiments, companies, battalions, all of that was here. And trying to find all of that is very difficult. There's a beautiful monument up in Gettysburg for 3rd Corps Pennsylvania Volunteers. Well, looking at their battle rosters, they're at Totopotomoy, which was 2 miles away from here. And then they're at Cold Harbor, which is 3 miles past here from Totopotomoy, but 3rd Corps Pennsylvania Volunteers don't show up here at Bethesda Church. And I'm like, how the hell is that even possible? They were here, we're right in the middle. Well, it turns out that 3rd Corps was assigned to the 5th Corps while they fought here at Bethesda Church. So this wasn't under their battle flag, so it doesn't get them recognized as being here, even though they fought here. So it's things like that that are making my life that much more difficult.
Right? Like, and when I say Dennis has amassed, I mean, his book is like this thick.
Yeah,
I am not exaggerating. Of nothing but historic facts about that surrounding area and that location. So, like, it's a wealth of information. Like, if you want to know anything about the surrounding area or that property, like, Dennis knows.
pretty much. And I didn't set out to do this. I didn't set out to be a historian. I just wanted to investigate ghosts and see what kind of crazy shit I can get to happen. And then it became, I'm a bit of a history nerd anyway. Like back in high school, one of my thoughts was if I hadn't already enlisted in a delayed entry program, I wanted to become a history teacher. So all of a sudden, here I am as a history teacher of sorts.
Mhm.
And, I guess the old saying, you never know what life holds for you until you get there.
Exactly. Not in a
And
million years, my little mountain goat self would never imagine the path that my life has been taking lately.
yeah, but I wouldn't change any of this for anything. It has absolutely been fascinating to me. learning the lives, learning the names. Um, there was a story that I don't know if I shared it with you guys when you came for your investigation, but 49th Virginia, Colonel Christian writes a letter to the editor in 1902, I think, 1902, 1905, somewhere right around there. But he's describing how from the wilderness to Bethesda Church, they have lost 9 color bearers. Now, the wilderness is another battle up near Fredericksburg, an hour and a half or so car drive away. But he walks down the line to pick another color bearer, and he comes across, quote unquote, a long, lanky, beardless boy from the mountains of Amherst County, and asks him if he will bear colors. He said, "Yes, sir, I will gladly bear colors. They killed my brother the other day. They may as well kill me too." And then he describes how this boy was killed. 49th Virginia goes on an offensive attack against the Union lines north of here. And as they hit the lines, he states how, and Orendorff is the young man's name. He states how Orendorff is permitted to stand mere 20 yards away from the enemy musket or muzzles, perhaps out of respect for his bravery, for a period of time, bearing colors. And then it describes how until they trailed a big gun on him. And the last that could be seen of him after his little red cap flew up 10 feet in the air and one arm flew one way and one the other, his flesh was dashed upon our faces, and they had in fact killed him too. So that's the type tragedies that took place on this land during the Civil War. This was not a gentleman's war. This was the inception of guerrilla warfare. Night maneuvers took place here at Bethesda Church. That was almost unheard of during the Civil War. General Lee led 5 battles where he physically led troop maneuvers. This is one of them. So this was a crucial point in the war, and it's sadly so massively overlooked. So we're just trying to save a little bit of history and, hashtag save the battlefield.
Right? I hate to do it, but it's already been an hour, believe it or not. We flew through that hour. If anybody wants to find out about the Cabin on 360, in the description there is a link to their Facebook and their website. Book an investigation. You won't be disappointed. The people there are wonderful, and you're sure to have an experience, put it that way. I'm not going to guarantee what type, but you'll find something, or something will find you.
Yeah, I won't guarantee that you'll get chased off in an hour and a half like the team from New Hampshire did, but you'll have an experience. I have yet to have any team come through and go, "We didn't have shit happen."
Right. Yeah, the woods, that still boggles, because you know me, I'm a logic-based thinker. And I just logically cannot figure out why we got so lost in that little, like, if you ever go out there and walk the woods, it's different at night. I'll put it that way. It is different at night.
It takes on an all new darkness.
So yeah, don't be a me and laugh off the reflectors and the glow sticks. They are there for a reason, and even with them, you can get lost. So.
Valid points.
Dennis, I want to thank you so much for joining me tonight and taking us inside the history, the mysteries, and the hauntings of Cabin on 360. What I love about this location is that there's more than just places where people go to look for ghosts. There's the real history beneath the stories, the real people that lived, fought, and suffered and died around these places. And whether you believe every unexplained experience is paranormal or not, these stories deserve to be remembered. Having investigated the cabin myself, I've been especially excited to sit down with Dennis and hear the property from his perspective as the owner. And Dennis, I have a feeling I haven't made my last trip to the cabin just yet. To
And
ever
Christina, I look forward to it. Come on back.
To everyone watching tonight, thank you for spending another evening with us. If you enjoyed our conversation, please give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and share the episode with another creepy little weirdo who loves haunted locations, dark history, and paranormal investigation. And remember, sometimes the most frightening thing about a haunted location isn't the ghost story, it's the history that actually happened there. Until next time, my fellow creepy little weirdos, thank you for watching. Thank you, Dennis, and good night and sweet dreams. Bye bye, guys.
Good night, y'all. Have a blessed week.